Well, I would say that the other at the council table, you know. Just wondering how much you got bribed. You say $5? I expect you to say something like, otherwise I feel the cold. Yeah. Hey guys. Thank you.
Kids, down.
I don't know about that. I could be safe.
That's right.
Yeah, I just wanted to reach over and say hi. Just like saw you guys in the band. I haven't seen you guys in a while.
Hi, how are you? Oh, look at you.
Yeah, we're going.
Oh, that's perfect. So you got to take notes from.
I do. I have to go back and debrief and
Yeah.
I have to have basically write an essay. But I just wanted to
Oh, super. You look awesome.
Well, yeah.
Which ring is do I not touch? Okay, do not touch that. About a 10-second stay there.
How do they know they're leaving kind of maybe they're
Zoom out a bit. When the person's zoom back in, take your time. Probably be actually there's
Yeah. should have done a double
My parents good job.
Well, I guess we're ready to go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Perry Deering. I'm the current president of the Medicine Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of the Chamber Board of Directors, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the first night of the 2017 Municipal Election Forum. I'll just give you, for some of you that don't know the role or what the Chamber really kind of does, I'll just give a little quick cap here. The Medicine District Chamber of Commerce has advocated for business since 1900. And it's responsible in seeking answers to questions and concerns that are important to our membership. Currently, the Chamber has over 800 active members, ranging from one-person, home-based businesses to large corporations. Over the past council term, the Medicine Hat District Chamber of Commerce has worked on several municipal issues, including sustainable municipal finance, diversifying local economy, municipal engagement, transparency, my favorite, red tape reduction, levies and taxations, just to name a few. And we are committed to voicing the concerns of the business community on your behalf. Tonight we will be hearing from a mix of new and incumbent council candidates for the City of Medicine Hat as they explain their positions on various issues facing our city, while also explaining their qualifications and expertise that has led them to vie for the position to govern the city of 63,000. Because the Chamber is a nonpartisan organization, we are proud advocates for openness and, of course, transparency at all levels of government, and we encourage our business members and the community to take a vast interest in electing their representatives and making an informed vote. So at this time, I'd like to introduce our moderator for the evening. Mr. Ken Cobley has been a president and CEO of the Alberta Chamber of Commerce, known as ACC, since February 2005. Over the past 11 years, Ken has developed the ACC's profile as a strong, consistent voice for Alberta business. Provincially, nationally, and international media regularly turns to the ACC for comments on business-related issues. As the CEO of a federation of 128 chambers of commerce, which in turn represents 24,000 businesses, Ken advocates for the policies developed by these individual chambers and adopted by the federation as a whole. Ken's broad professional and political background has served him well in this position. He achieved his Certified General Accountant distinction in 1980, which allowed him to provide professional tax and accounting services to individuals' home-managed businesses. He also worked for the province of Alberta and the banking industry. Ken spent 2 decades on the Municipal Council of the town of Beaumont, where he currently resides. He was mayor of the town for 12 years. I'm pleased to welcome to the stage Mr. Ken Cobley.
Well, I definitely have to update that bio because the most thing I'm proud of is that I'm born and raised in Medicine Hat, so I come home. Thank you. I'll also utter 10 words you never ever want to hear anybody say. I'm from Edmonton, I'm here to help you. I'm honored to be moderating tonight's event for the Chamber. As a nonpartisan organization, the Medicine Hat and District Chamber of Commerce embraces the democratic process and does not support any one candidate over another. All electoral candidates were issued an invitation to participate in our forums and were free to accept or decline. Before we begin tonight's debate, I would like to take a moment to explain the rules to which all of the candidates have agreed. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make an opening statement before we proceed into the question and debate portion of tonight's event. On the topics presented, Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to a question that will be asked to all candidates. Follow-up questions may be asked, to which they will also have 1 minute to respond. During tonight's question and answer period, I may open the floor to debate following a particular topic to a maximum of 4 minutes per topic. And finally, each candidate will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement at the end of the program. This forum is structured in a manner that allows equal opportunity for all candidates to express their political views and plans for action, and the effect this will have on the business in this community. The structure of this forum allows you, as the audience, to hear from each candidate equally, so you are able to make an informed decision on October 16th. None of the candidates have had any advanced knowledge of tonight's questions, but they were given a list of potential topics that we will be discussing. The questions for tonight's debate are directly related to Chamber policy, which have been developed on behalf of local businesses. Questions were also accepted via email submissions. Those chosen were selected in accordance with Chamber policies and current issues relative to business in our community. Additionally, the Chamber has submitted a letter to each candidate with 12 questions outlining topics such as intermunicipal collaboration, taxation, downtown revitalization, strategic priorities, service delivery, air travel, economic development, small business job creation, sustainable municipal finances, red tape reduction, and fees and charges. So you can see that your Chamber is very, very active, which will be available for viewing on the Chamber's website by the end of the week. For the audience, I ask that you refrain from participating in the forum in any way other than by quiet observation. We don't want to impact or reduce the amount of time that we have for questions. Please hold any applause or comments until the end of the forum. This is for your benefit, as we have a lot of information to get through this evening, and any interruption will lessen the time we have available to hear from our candidates. If you have a cell phone with you, please make sure that the ringer is turned off so that we are not interrupting anyone's answers. We'll be accepting written questions from the audience this evening, which will be collected by Chamber volunteers and delivered to designated forum scrutineers. So if you have a question that you want somebody to pick up, raise your hand, and they will come to you. If you have a question to submit, again, please hold up your hand. The volunteers also have paper and pencils if needed. The questions may or may not be included into our program this evening at my discretion and dependent on time. Now, without any further ado, I would like to invite the audience to join me in welcoming to the stage the 2017 council candidates for the City of Medicine Hat that are participating this evening. First, Mr. Robert Dumanowski. Ms. Julie Friesen. Mr. Jamie McIntosh. Mr. Emmanuel Moritz. Mr. Leslie Rath. Mr. Ryan Rayner. Mr. Chris Samraj. Ms. Paulette Smithers. Mr. Phil Turnbull. And Mr. Jim Turner. All right, let's begin. Before we get to the hot topics of the evening, each candidate will have 1 minute to deliver an opening statement, which we ask includes their reasons for joining the 2017 election race and their qualifications and experience that will help them to govern the city. Mr. Dumanowski, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow candidates, thank you for coming this evening. My name is Robert Dumanowski. I've been on council since 2001. I was 30 years old when I first was elected to office, and I've had the distinct pleasure of serving you all these years. When I think about what makes me a candidate eligible for office and perhaps willing of your vote yet again, is the fact that I am very, very concerned about this community day in and day out. When I'm not sitting as a city councillor, I'm a school principal with the Catholic Division. My wife is an RN in this community. I have 4 children. I've lived in Medicine since 1972. I am the child of immigrant parents who came to this country. My experience on many, many committees and commissions and advisory boards has led me to my experience today. I ask for your vote on October 16th.
Thank you, Mr. Dumanowski. Next, we'll move on to Ms. Friesen.
Thank you for the opportunity. Good evening, everyone. My name is Julie Friesen. I and my husband moved to Medicine Hat over 30 years ago, and I have absolutely loved this place ever since. We raised our 3 children here. They had the opportunity of wonderful recreation and sports opportunities, cultural ones. They attended the Medicine Hat College, an amazing institution. In my career, we have two little tiny twins and one other one, and they're all 2 years old, so we're very busy. Very happy as well. In my work, I am a community development officer, and I do a lot of planning and facilitation and governance work, and that fits really well with the community role with council. This council has made many accomplishments this year. I'm very proud of a lot of the things we've done, the facilities we've opened, and there's a lot more to do. There are always opportunities to seize. I have experience and knowledge. I've got energy, enthusiasm, and I ask for your support.
See? Told you I was going to be brutal. Thank you, Ms. Friesen. You're the first one that I got to pull that one on. All right, next we'll go to Mr. McIntosh.
Thanks, Mr. Cobley. My name is Jamie McIntosh. I've been a member of this community since 2001. I have been a teacher at both Medicine Hat High School and for the last 12, 13 years at Vincent Massey School working with the young kids. I have been very active in this community since moving here as a volunteer, coached sports, curling, helped assistant coach the Medicine Hat High School rugby program. I was involved with Spectrum Festival for many years and helped bring that event back downtown several years ago when the downtown required some additional support. I have a master's degree in work and leadership, focusing in community development. And I've spent the last 4 years on City Council trying to work hard to make this place a better community for everyone that lives here. I have concerns about the future, our financial situation, and I want our kids to be able to have the opportunity to stay here and go to school and work when they're done school.
Thank you. Next we'll go to Mr. Moritz.
Mr. Moritz, thank you. My name is Emmanuel Moritz. I've lived here for 60 years. My background is in construction, from working as the laborer at the end of the stick to a business owner. My wife, Sandy, is here. I have 2 kids, Jen and her husband, Chris, grandsons Noah and Isaac. I served the community as a member of the MPC for 10 years, and I served 2 terms on the Catholic Board of Education. Part of the reason why I'm here is that I think I love politics. I think I like the interplay. I like to talk to people. I want to make sure that your concerns and vision for the city are heard. I want to make sure that you understand where I'm coming from. I want to understand that we need to talk about fiscal responsibility. We need to talk about positive change, because we need positive change in the city. We are in an economic downturn. We want to make sure that for our kids, for our grandkids, that they stay here. We want to make sure that that demographic of 19 to 54 grows. We want to make sure that there's jobs.
Time. Thanks, Mr. Moritz. Even though we went to school together, you got cut off. Yeah, I was the younger one in the class. Now we'll hear from Mr. Rath.
Hi, thank you. My name is Leslie Rath, and I've been born and raised and lived my entire life in the Medicine Hat area. I was raised on a farm south of Medicine Hat, but later I moved in and went to work at Dawn Glass until closing. And then I opened up my own machine shop, as I was a machinist for Dawn Glass. And then I've raised my 2 daughters here, but of course they had to move away because there is no work here. And my big thing on this is jobs, jobs, jobs. I want to try to stimulate the economy, or try to get companies to situate here so that we can start to grow in this city. That's about
Time.
Okay.
Next, we'll hear from Mr. Rayner.
I started running this race because I've lived here majority of my life. I graduated from Crescent Heights High School in 2012. I took the first year of nursing program inside of this very college. I got honors in both semesters. I was a medic on the oil patch, and I was there during the oil crash. I watched a large portion of people walk off. I've seen a lot of my friends have to leave town, and eventually, if things keep going the way they're going, I'll have to leave town. I love Medicine Hat. I got a family here. I want to make sure there's a reason for our future, a reason for us to stay around. It's a great community, a strong community. I want to make sure the people have a voice in what's happening. I want to make sure Medicine Hat is ready for a change. It looks like it's wanting a change. I want to be there. I want to be the voice for the people and make sure everyone's represented.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. Next, we'll go to Mr. Samraj.
Thank you. My name is Chris. I moved here 5 years ago with everything I owned crammed into my smart car. I'm the head of nonfiction services at the Medicine Hat Public Library, and I write for the Medicine Hat News as a columnist. I've been attending city council meetings for 3 years to learn as much as I can, because everybody's going to talk about some of the things that they want to do. Low taxes or making the city's bureaucracy run as well as possible. But without understanding the city processes, it's going to be hard to deliver on those promises. So I've tried to learn as much as I can, and I hope I have something to offer. I try to approach everything as thoughtfully as I can. We're not going to agree on everything, but I think trust, not agreement, is what you want in a councillor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Ms. Smithers.
Hello, thank you so much for inviting me here tonight. I believe there's room at our council table for diverse perspectives, for engaged conversation and creative ideas. I lead with a people-first approach. Municipal politics is not about pushing a partisan agenda, it's about building and growing our community. While I have several areas of interest for myself, such as community, transportation, and economic development, it is the citizens of Medicine Hat who will determine council's agenda. For that, I believe we need councillors who welcome diverse voices, who are team builders and collaborators, and who will seek out the expertise and knowledge that exists in our community to help us make informed decisions. We need councillors who are strong role models for our young people, who are respected advocates and negotiators, who are inclusive, who challenge the status quo, and who encourage change. I appreciate your support on October 16th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Smithers. Next, we're going to Mr. Turnbull.
Good evening. Change is inevitable. Those who adapt more likely flourish and succeed. Those who do not struggle. I sat on this stage 4 years ago and said, if we don't get a strategic plan for our utilities and we don't get our spending under control, there would be no dividend. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here. We have no dividend. 2 years and $48 million of our reserve money before this council took it upon themselves to finally do something about that change. We will get spending under control. We will provide the best services possible at the lowest cost. My fellow citizens, we can do better. We must do better, and I believe you deserve better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, we'll hear Mr. Turner's opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, everyone. I grew up on a farm not too far from Medicine Hat, and after completing high school, I joined the business world and worked throughout the prairies. And my wife and I moved back here in 1998 when we opened the Garden Market IGA. And what I bring to this council, or what I brought to the previous council as I've been on there for 4 years, is a wealth of business experience. And I think at this particular juncture in our city, with the economic hardships we are having and our budget, trying to balance our budget, I think it's really important to have councillors who have that business experience. I've had business experience working for large corporations. I've owned my own businesses. And I think at this time when we have to make those difficult decisions, it's really important to have that experience on our council. And I certainly ask for your support on October the 16th. Thank you.
Thank you all candidates for keeping within the time limit. Now that we've heard from all the candidates, we'll move on to the question and debate portion of tonight's events. For new candidates, remember you've got 60 seconds to answer this question. What will be your top strategic priorities while in office, and what will you do to see that your priorities are implemented? First, we'll start with Mr. Moritz.
Of course, our strategic responsibility is for growth. We need jobs. We need a methodology for our kids to stay here. We need to work hard at bringing new business. We also have to work on business retention. There are 4,000 businesses in Medicine Hat. We need to make sure that they stay here, that those entrepreneurs build the community, that they build their business. If each one of them only hired one person, just one, we'd have 4,000 extra jobs in Medicine Hat. We can't always look to the outside. It's great. There are things on the fire. We can make sure that we can get giant corporations to come in, but those opportunities are few and far between. The city has a business development program in place. We go out and we look at other businesses to come here. We offer natural things. We have water, we have gas, we are on a transportation corridor, we have the CPR rail. So there are lots of opportunities in solar, there's opportunities in greenhouses, there's opportunities in natural gas uptake, and I'm out.
Time. Mr. Rath.
Well, my biggest thing is getting jobs for the community, and by that I mean that people, the city hall before didn't seem to assist companies, and what I would want to do is quite possibly give the company that wants to situate here free land and maybe even free taxes just to get them here situated. Because like I say, and another thing I would like to see happening is them do something with the hot water on that on the generating plant. We could heat our buildings downstream with that hot water instead of dumping it into the river. And so, therefore, I would work pretty hard to get that done.
Mr. Rayner.
First of all, we have to stay competitive with other municipalities. Other municipalities have done exactly what offered incentives for jobs to come here. But not just jobs, we got to bring industries. We got lots of low-paying jobs, but we need jobs so people don't have to work 2 jobs. We want to work 1 job, come home to our families. We need to bring industry here. We need to make sure that we need to build from within the community, jobs from within the community, industry from within the community. There's lots of business owners out there. There's lots of would-be business owners out there. We need to ask them how we can help them, give them incentives. Industries, when they come from outside of town, they have a tendency to bring people with them, to bring people in those higher paying jobs. In the United States right now, it's called retail apocalypse. During Obama's administration, they did a recovery there, but the recovery was based on retail. It seems that Canada's doing the same thing. We can't do that if we want to remain.
Thank you. Mr. Samraj.
You know, everybody talks about jobs, but I mean, it's not the city's job to provide jobs. I mean, what the city can do is provide the right environment for economic growth. But I think the key priority for that is good city council decisions. And I think that's something that I've watched from watching city council deliberate over the last 3 years, is that so many of the decisions go 9-0. I think you want good deliberations, you want vigorous debate, and I think you want to hear more than one perspective from your city council members. I think the big thing, everything flows from good city council decisions, and I think the wider perspectives that you have in there, then you can have better economic growth there.
Ms. Smithers.
What I've been hearing in the community with respect to working and interacting with City Hall is a lack of communication from this council. Our residents, our businesses are not clear on how they can interact with the city and how the city actually supports them. We can certainly talk about economic development, and it's a huge priority, but I think a really major strategy for our residents that they're asking for is communication, to understand what is happening at City Hall, to understand what the plans are. And a perfect example of that, of not knowing what is happening, is the recent transit debacle. We need to understand what the plan is, how we plan on recovering the financial shortfall of $23 million, and it all stems from communication, sharing with the citizens of Medicine Hat exactly what our plan is going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Turnbull.
Thank you. So obviously, we must be can't say the word, sorry. Fiscally responsible. We must be vigilant. We must ask the tough questions. Are we on track? How can we do things better? We have a $358 million operating expense of the city in 2016. If we could find just half of 1%, we would save ourselves almost $2 million. We need to be able to open discussions in council on things. We must hear people say, why do I support this and why I do not? And we have that discussion, and you as a community, and I agree with my candidate here, that exactly what people are saying is, we want to know why you're making those decisions. So I plan to be open, available, and accountable to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now for the incumbent candidates. What was your top priority from your previous term, and what progress do you feel was made on this issue that directly resulted from your work and attention? Starting off first with Mr. Dumanowski.
Well, the fact of the matter is economic development has everything to do with a stable community. We can look at corporate asset management. We have a plan for that. We can look at our utilities and how we're going to recover from that. We can look at a lot of aspects of our corporate structure, but economic development envelopes all of them. So for the past 4 years, we've worked hard to ensure that we have a destination marketing organization that is representing this community, and we've done an incredible job. We got rid of the EDA, and we invested in a new company called Investment Medicine Hat. They have created a profile for our community and business climate in this community second to none. Stable non-residential and residential tax ratio is critical to stable tax base. Red tape reduction, I know the Chamber talks about a lot. We've worked really hard at that. We have seen an economic burst in our community because of these kinds of initiatives.
Thank you. Next we'll hear from Ms. Friesen.
Thank you. I had several priorities. I would say my top three were economic development, people and their quality of life, and fiscal responsibility. Since we've talked already a little bit about economic development, and I'm still very committed to that, I think I want to talk a little bit about people and quality of life. It's very important to me. So when I say that, I mean recreation, culture, transportation, social opportunities, things for families, tourism, if you will, quality opportunities to be part of a community. And if you look over our record of the past 4 years, you will see that we have opened the Canalta Center. We've expanded the Family Leisure Center to include activities for every family imaginable. We have 2 new fire stations that, within the same amount of manpower with no tax increase for manpower, covers the city with a far better response time. Amazing. We have a wonderful relationship with tourism, and we've really created a strong quality of life.
Mr. McIntosh.
Thank you, Mr. Cobley. I came in 4 years ago with 3 main priorities, the first of which was hopefully being a part of a group of people that could come together as a team and lead the city as a team, which I think without question this group of individuals that were here for the last 4 years have done. Fiscal responsibility and economic growth were my second 2 priorities. Fiscal responsibility, I think our economy faced a much bigger shock than many people were expecting. We knew natural gas was going to be challenged for the last few years, and many of us know it's going to be challenged for a long time into the future. The role of the Financially Fit program has made huge inroads into the gap that we face. Significant work still needs to be done there, obviously, and economic development, Invest Medicine Hat is bringing new jobs to our community, and that needs to be continued.
And lastly, Mr. Turner.
Thank you. Well, my main reason for running back in 2013 was I really felt that we didn't really have a plan for economic development for the city, and I've been very fortunate that the mayor has allowed me to sit on pretty much all of the economic development advisory boards. And when I look back at what we had in the pipeline in 2013, we basically had zero. And when I look at what we have in the pipeline now with the strides that we've made with the Invest Medicine Hat, and as a member of that board, of course, I get to see some of the things that nobody else sees because they're not developed yet. But we have a lot of potential major announcements to come down the road, and I think that's really important. And also tourism, and we've done a real great job with the DMO, and of course now we've just recently announced the start of our Sports Advisory Committee, which is going to really work on bringing more sporting events and that type of thing to the city. So I think we've really made a lot of progress.
Thank you. The second topic that we'd like to explore in tonight's debate is economic diversity. This question is for all candidates. It's going to come at you in a random order. Okay? And reminder, you have 60 seconds. There's ever-increasing impacts on business from all levels of government, resulting in economic and business uncertainty. What would you do to create greater economic stability and incent new or expanded business development opportunities? Mr. McIntosh.
Thank you. There is no question that we are currently seeing a significant growth in our commercial development in different parts of our city. This is going to help with our tax base and help with jobs. Invest Medicine Hat has gone out and identified what specific types of businesses can benefit from coming to our area and our region. And they have gone out and sold those businesses on how great Medicine Hat is. We are already seeing dividends from that, and we will continue to see huge dividends moving forward. This group needs to be continued to be supported. Diversity is what is going to allow, as was mentioned earlier, our kids to have the chance to stay here. We do not want our kids to have to go to Calgary and Edmonton to find jobs. The diversity is going to help grow our community. We might not see it for 3 or 5 years, but 10 years down the road, that's what's going to make the difference.
Thank you. Mr. Dumanowski.
Well, I touched upon a number of the variables with economics in Medicine Hat, and really it comes down to creating a climate. I think no one would dispute that. We've seen an upsurge in development. The fact of the matter is that we can't see that kind of growth unless there's a climate, an attitude in our community that brings optimism, and the business community is a good litmus test for that. Our offsite levies review every year has been contentious at times. This past year we had almost no issues with it. I think that is again indicative of a climate where Council and City Hall are working with our business community, trying to make amends, trying to reduce the red tape, trying to streamline the approach. And 4 years ago we sat here and we talked about a one-stop shop where business community can come and get their permits and development without too much hassle. We have the second lowest tax base in the country based on independent reviews. We've created a climate and we need to build on that.
Mr. Rath.
Well, the economic development is fine, but you got to give these companies an incentive to situate here, and that's why I believe my plan would be one of the better ones, by giving them free land and free taxes if they build here for a period of time. And you take like the city of Medicine Hat hasn't changed much in 20 years. So you take like there's got to be more development done here.
Mr. Moritz?
We have to create a climate of opportunity. That includes the city and it includes the business community. Neither could do it by themselves. They both have the best interests of the city of Medicine Hat at heart, but they have to work together. We have to work as a team. Everybody in this room needs to work together so that we can, in this city, create jobs. We need to work on having that opportunity for small businesses to grow, big businesses to come, and for local entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurship is the future. With AI out there, those forever jobs are going to be gone. Each one of those children out there, those kids out there, will have that opportunity to stay here. And that's what we want. We want that city to grow. We want that intermediate demographic. We want them to stay here. We want them to spend our money here. We want them to spend their money here. If there's more people, there's more taxes, taxpayers, there's more opportunity for consumers, there's more opportunity for businesses to grow.
Thank you. Ms. Friesen.
Thank you. I believe that the city alone cannot hold responsibility for economic development. It has to be involved in the way that it ensures a strong, welcoming environment for business, and one that is open and fairly seamless for a new business to come and work within. Having said that, it's a partnership, and we have to create that environment and then work together with our partners to help sustain it. Invest Medicine Hat has been a wonderful partner, and they have a lot of things they can't announce as well that really have been beneficial in terms of bringing jobs. Diversity for me is tied to innovation and new opportunities. Those are always changing and growing. And part of it for me also is to build on the strengths that we already have in our own portfolio. And that is very large in the energy sector, as well as alternative and renewable energy, electricity, and a number of other things. We need to work on those together.
Mr. Rayner.
Economic diversity is a must. It's the future, and jobs are disappearing due to automation. We need to stay competitive, like I said before. We need to give them incentives, jobs to be here. Give them a reason for industry to grow here. One of the things we could do is when we offer to do construction in the town here, we could hire construction groups from within town here. Sometimes the cheapest isn't always the best. Other things we could do is, like the man beside me said, free land, or one of the concerns businesses had was appropriate land development. Another thing was, it said their labor forces, they were afraid of there wasn't enough labor, or a large enough labor force here. Well, currently there is. We need to encourage these businesses to come here. I think we have a really good chance for this. And I think, of course, economic diversity is where it's at, and it will fix a large portion of problems in Medicine Hat.
Thank you. Mr. Turnbull.
Thank you. I've done quite a bit of research on some of the best economic development departments in Canada, in fact the top 20. It's interesting that Moose Jaw, just down the road in Saskatchewan, offers a 5-year phase-in on taxes for anyone who wants to come to their city and build. And anyone who expands their business gets the same opportunity of the 5-year phase-in. They also offer grants, outright grants, and matching grants. And I like Invest Medicine Hat, but I think our economic development has to be far more encompassing than just that. The best that I've seen on economic development is that you need to bring all sources of your city. We have so many resources here, some of the brightest minds, and we bring all those people together who can help us network. People like Goodyear, CanCar, all these kind of people, they can help us, along with Invest Medicine Hat, to get more opportunity here. Thank you.
Mr. Samraj.
Every city is trying to attract new businesses to their communities, and it's incredibly competitive. I think Councillor Friesen and Councillor Dumansky are right. I mean, Invest Medicine Hat is doing good work. I would support them to expand them to focus on business retention and expansion for local businesses here as well. But I mean, part of this is creating a competitive environment at City Hall. They tried to cut transit to save money, but they made such a bad mistake about it, it ended up costing taxpayers more money. That single mistake costs 1% or 1.5% on your taxes. So when things like that happen, once again, like I said, everything flows from good decision making at City Hall. We need to concentrate on that.
Mr. Turner.
Well, first of all, I think it's important to note that the governments and politicians don't create jobs. At least we don't want them to create the jobs that the taxpayers don't want them to create jobs because it's going to cost us more in taxes, but they can create the conditions that make it much more easy for businesses to grow and expand and relocate here. And that is what we have been working on, to try to speed up that approval process at City Hall. And I think we've done a pretty good job. When you look at the stats and how long it takes to get a development permit approved, I mean, those numbers have really improved a lot in the last couple of years. And it's really important that the attitude of our people that work at our City Hall is business friendly. And we've done a lot to improve that as well. So I think those two things are very important. And of course, it's really important to diversify the economy away from oil and gas. And we've tried to do that, and I think we're doing more of that as we move forward into the future.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Smithers.
I think when it comes to economic development, we need to look at it from the point of view not only as an individual municipality, but as a region. The Southeast Alberta is, in my view, opportunity corner. We're not the forgotten corner. We have tremendous opportunity in this region right now to be the world leader in renewable energy, specifically solar and wind energy. We have the ability to transfer the skills we currently are expert in the oil and gas industry, to renewable energy, whether it's transportation, distribution, even manufacturing. We have those opportunities right now in our region. Something we do have to change in City Hall right now is the attitude. It's an attitude of welcoming business, of being the opportunity corner and taking advantage of the opportunities we have right now.
Thank you. All right, next question. And before I read the question, I'll warn the candidates that this is one of the questions I'm going to open up to debate. So you'll have, and I'll explain the rules in just a minute. The next question, our national, provincial, and local economy is impacted by boom-bust economic cycles. What do you believe is the city's role in mitigating the impacts of downturns in the economy and helping to accelerate and assist rebounds? Firstly, Mr. Samraj.
You're right, I mean, economies go up and down, and we don't have any control over that. I think what the city can control are expenses. And so the way we do that is we control the way that the city develops. I think we need to start building inward, not outward. The reason a lot of cost from the city comes from just the increased cost of servicing the city as it increasingly moves outward. So I mean, we're building a new neighborhood in Radgelands there. You know, we've got $1 billion that are coming up in infrastructure needs for heritage neighborhoods there, and we're not pulling enough taxes in those neighborhoods to cover that cost. So then we pull money from the new developments to cover that cost. But I mean, it's almost like a pyramid scheme where we keep needing more growth and more growth to cover the existing neighborhoods there. So I mean, I think we really need to focus on sustainable growth, and I think that'll help alleviate some of this boom and bust when the times are rough.
Mr. Turner.
Well, I think one of the issues we have when we have this boom and bust economy is, of course, the federal government, they want to start putting all kinds of money into infrastructure, and then they pass that money down to the province, and then, of course, the province divvies it up. And it always seems that the smaller municipalities are left kind of holding the bag, because by the time Edmonton and Calgary in this province get their share, there isn't much left for the rest of us. And that is always an issue when you're looking at infrastructure, because as a community, that's something we could be doing during the down times. Number one, it's much cheaper to get contractors to come in and do work, but you have to have money to do that. And we did do quite a few projects with the building of the berms, and that was about a $30 million investment, but most of that money came from the province. But otherwise, when you're looking at replacing sewer and roadways and that type of thing, that money needs to be a little bit more shared from the federal and provincial governments, because it shouldn't always be on the back of our city taxpayers.
Mr. Dumanowski.
Well, there's a lot of items that play into the ups and downs and booms and busts of economic climate, and I think two things that I want to talk about very briefly is the offsite levy. It's one of those levies that is passed on to business developers and developers in general. We have a plan for municipal assist, and it's one that's, it varies as we move forward. When we had a downturn in the economic climate, council sought in their wisdom to ensure, through advocacy from the chamber and others, to ensure that we covered areas where we wanted to see infill development or new development where there wasn't going to be significant costs passed on to putting in deep infrastructure to create urban sprawl or new development outside of the developed areas. So that is an area where we made significant gains, and also, again, a predictable tax ratio between residential and non-residential taxes. We can do better, and we need to work with the Chamber and the business community to create that.
Mr. McIntosh.
Well, growing up in Alberta, I've watched the boom bust cycle going back to when I was a little kid, and always fascinated how when times were great, very little was done to save for the rainy day. Medicine Hat, during this current downturn, is heading down the path of having a Heritage Trust Fund to save for a rainy day that will eventually, when our energy division is profitable again, we'll be able to start putting money back into that account to ensure that when times do get tough, there is money there to stabilize the economy and make sure things do not get back to the way they have been the last 4 years. By bringing costs down in government, are financially fit, pulling those right levers to bring costs down, to ensure that we are not spending more money than we need to be spending to provide those services is paramount as this community moves forward to ensure that, the budget is balanced.
Mr. Moritz?
We're talking about mitigation of the booms and busts in Alberta. We're in the oil business, we're in the gas business, it's going to happen. For the city, what we have to do is, like my friend next door, we have to talk about a heritage or sustainability fund. We have to put money aside when times are good so that all our services can still be provided in those downtimes. Offsite levies, well, we can't talk about offsite levies without saying that the person that buys the lot pays those offsite levies. The person that develops the land does not pay that money. He may pay it up front, but in the long term, the person that buys the lot pays. That person that buys the lot pays for everybody else's. I live downtown. Somebody else paid for that utility servicing for those new roads. And it wasn't me. It was those people in those new areas. City has to streamline its operations. We have to make sure we get effective use out of the people that work for us. Make effective use of the resources that we have. We've got great people. We just got to make sure that they're doing the right thing.
Time. Mr. Turnbull.
Understanding change is what I said earlier. We have to set plans, but plans are not written in stone. We have to follow up. The city does a very poor job of following up on the plans they set. Are we on track? Are our revenues still there? Are our costs still in line? If not, what's affecting them? And if not, what can we do about it? We have to be proactive, not always reactive. We can't be running around putting out fires all the time. One of the other things that bothers me is both Calgary and Edmonton get operational money for transit. Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, and Red Deer do not. Why are we not fighting for what's fair for us? Why do we not get operational money for transit? So I think that we have a much bigger job to do than simply talking about different bylaws. We need to go out and make sure that our MLAs and our MPs provide us with a fair share of the tax dollars that we pay into.
Ms. Friesen.
Thank you. I believe that part of the solution here is planning. Rather than, and it was said earlier by Mr. Turnbull, to be proactive rather than reactive. Councils often spend all their time in the here and now and not as much focused on the future in terms of assessing trends, having a look at growth, having a look at what economic impact might do to growth and making the adjustments ahead of time rather than after the fact when it's too late. I think we have to work better together regionally, and the new Municipal Government Act adjustments are going to force us to do that, and that's going to help. We need to invest as much as possible, if we can, in municipal infrastructure projects to help create jobs, utilize the job manpower we have locally the best we can. And we also have to replenish our tax rate stabilization fund and our Heritage Trust Fund, which we just started. Those are like your household savings account that help you in the bad times, and you refill them in the good.
Ms. Smithers.
I came to Canada when I was 16 years old, and I have lived through several boom and busts in Alberta since that time. It's a natural occurrence in our economy. And as long as that's been going on, we've also been talking about diversifying our economy. In Medicine Hat, we have had that opportunity to do so for several years, but we haven't had a unified strategy to actually diversify the economy. Instead, we appear to be separating into silos. Why did Invest Medicine Hat separate from the Economic Development Authority? Invest Medicine Hat has a budget of $500,000. There was $324,000 to be a member of EDA, and that was a regional approach to diversifying the economy. So we cannot go it alone, and it's time to stop talking and actually take action. Stop planning, stop thinking how it would like to be, and take some action.
Mr. Rayner.
During the big oil boom, we were creating 100 million barrels a day surplus. We're not going to be able to rely on oil again, not for a long time. We have to diversify our economy, as many have said. We need to make sure there's a reason for people or businesses to come here, but most of all, we need to make sure that there's entrepreneurs developing within our community. Give everybody a chance. Give people a platform. What can we do? Are there things that can be cut? We need to communicate with the community. Make sure that they have a voice with City Council. Make sure everyone's woes and concerns are heard. We need to look to the future. If there's cuts that need to be made, we need to make sure we look into the cuts that need to be made. And then most of all, we need to bring it to the public and make sure the public knows and has a choice, since we are supposed to work for the public and with the public.
Thank you. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm going to open the floor to debate on this particular issue. Oh, I'm sorry. Where did I miss you?
Yeah, you missed me.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Mr. Rath.
Okay, boom and bust, well, that's a sign of our times, and I think it's going to get worse, not better. And what we have to do is the city has to plan for these projects and has to maybe pay for them over 2 or 3 years instead of 1 year and borrowing a bunch of money. You take, like, it's a tough road, but also getting more of a tax base in here is most important. And the only way to get a better tax base is by creating jobs and getting companies interested in coming here.
All right, Mr. Rath, thank you for that. And again, I apologize for missing you. I was almost tempted to give you another minute. Almost. Okay, so I'm now going to open up the floor to debate, this free debate on this topic, okay, the one you just talked about. This free debate will last no more than 4 minutes. No candidate will speak for more than 30 seconds consecutively. Candidates must wait to be given the floor before speaking, and I'm going to recognize you based on what I perceive to be the order of hands going up. The first hand I saw going up was Mr. Samraj.
You know, we talk about containing city finances as a way of insulating ourselves from the boom and bust. So I think it's kind of funny when this council is talking about saving, when, I mean, they've shown no inclination to do so. I mean, out of the city's $300 million debt, $100 million of which came just in the last 5 years. You know, they talk about containing sprawl when they built Canalta in the middle of nowhere there. They talk about, you know, long-range planning, but the way that we've designed our neighborhoods up to this point are exactly the reason why we have transit issues. So, I think there's, you know, it's easy to say these things, but I mean, let's look at the actual track record.
Mr. Smith, Ms. Smithers.
Thank you. It is, I'm asking myself the question, why is the boom and bust economy in Alberta seem like such a surprise to some of the candidates on this stage? I remember after the 1980s, the popular bumper sticker was, "Please God, send another boom, I promise I won't fall away next time." You know, we've had so many plans and vision statements for this city. We have the strategic plan of...
Mr. McIntosh?
I'd just like to make a comment regarding why the city went away from the agreement it had with the Economic Development Alliance and went to Invest Medicine Hat. The EDA, and I voted definitely to move away from that, the EDA was basically on the quarterly reports telling us how many website hits they had. It was not doing anything productive to help our city grow. So that's why that decision was made.
Mr. Turnbull?
Yes, thank you. We talk about this thing, look, shale gas. was discovered years and years ago. And our city did this. Hope. Hope will get us through. We didn't react. As far as the best medicine hat, I know Ryan Jackson's a great guy, but he also wants to sell his business to both Redcliffe and the county. I think there's a conflict of interest there, and I think he should, if he's working for us, he should be working for us.
Mr. Turner.
So I'm going to just echo Councillor McIntosh's comments on why we left the EDA. I happen to sit on the Palliser Economic Partnership, which is a regional board that represents 22 municipalities in the southeast corner of Alberta, and we do a lot of work there, particularly on big picture things like transportation and logistics. We don't really work on the everyday things. If an opportunity comes to us, we refer it to the individual community that they're interested in. So that's where Invest Medicine Hat would take over.
Time. Mr. Dumanowski.
Very quickly, let's work with our partners, Medicine Hat College, to educate our students in trends that are happening in our community. Let's use the entrepreneurial spirit that we have with our business community. Work with our partners. Let's work with other levels of government to leverage funds. Canalta, FLC, and others were built by leveraging our funds with provincial and federal funds. In a downturn, we have the capacity to do something and turn it inside out, and we did just that with those two projects alone.
All right, Mr. Rayner.
I don't see why we couldn't have seen the oil crash coming. There was lots of signs coming to it. Why didn't we save? Why didn't we prepare? Why at the time when it was so good, why wouldn't we diversify our economy? There's the questions that come to mind here. Questions that have never been answered. Why didn't we talk to the people, and why did we not give them a better chance? A chance to talk about their concerns, the possibilities of starting new businesses.
Okay, and the last person to respond on this one, because we have 30 seconds left, is Ms. Friesen.
Thank you. I do want to add that we, at the City of Medicine Hat, we have been working to diversify our portfolio for some time. Some of these things have to be worked on confidentially for a period of time until they can be announced. But I can assure you that there is no slouching going on with this council in terms of trying to diversify our holdings so that they are more economically viable for you into the future.
Thank you. Well, that was an interesting exchange. Just got the blood sort of pounding there, so we'll move on to the next question. You got to recognize I'm a policy wonk, so this stuff really excites me. We'll now move on to the topic of sustainable municipal finances. This question is directed to our new candidates for council. The City of Medicine Hat operates under a financially fit for the future model, which uses different fiscal levers to build an operating budget for the city. How would you balance fiscal management with delivery of services to the citizens of Medicine Hat? We'll start off with Mr. Turnbull.
Thank you. Value for money audits. I'm a great believer in value for money audits. We did one back when I was on council back in 2010 and on leased vehicles, and we saved the city $1.25 million for a $100,000 investment. So sometimes spending money is an investment, not just an expenditure. We need to do more value for money audits, but we need to challenge administration. We need to have administration challenge their management teams. We have to get our employees to be innovative, to bring forth good ideas, because that's what makes a community grow, just like a company. If you don't have committed people trying to do a better job, trying to find efficiencies, then we will never be able to control our spending. So we need to control the spending. Thank you.
Ms. Smithers.
I have been reviewing the Financially Fit for the Future plan, and it concerns me. It was designed to address this $23 million shortfall. Part of Financially Fit talks about a 1.5% increase in property taxes, and which will save $640,000. That actually came out of the change to transit, was supposedly going to save the city $640. So it has me questioning every last item of these 7 levers that are in Financially Fit. What else has not been studied in detail to understand exactly what the financial ramifications are. Transit is a very scary prospect to understand what else might be in financially fit. We need to go back to the drawing board and understand that before we can talk about sustainable financial plan for the city.
Mr. Samraj.
It's part of the reason why I'm running here. You know, everybody likes to blame current council for the state that we're in, but the truth is we're all responsible here. I mean, the problems that we're facing now, they were not created overnight. I mean, these were decades in the making. I mean, we relied on our gas dividend to offset our taxes so we could have low taxes and high services. I mean, we all made a mistake here. It's going to take a while to solve them. I think we're going to have to really plan strategically, and I think we saw the thing with the transit, what happens when we make those kind of mistakes. So, I mean, you know, I think we got to talk to staff, we got to talk to the people, but anytime we talk about service cuts, we really need to talk to the people who are affected on those, and so we need to plan effectively on that.
Okay, Mr. Rayner.
Our best bet is to stick to necessary spending. We are in a downturn. Only spend on what's necessary right now. It's going to be tough at first, but we can do it. We need to start finishing old projects before starting new, so we can get those things out of the way and done. We need to make sure that we are spending most of our focus on economic development. That is a necessary key right now. Also, I'd like to keep the community, like I've said, in the loop. If they got ideas, give the community a platform. Let people talk. I want the community to be more involved in these situations. These problems have been old. And these problems need to be addressed. We need to make sure everyone is involved in this and we can move together. Thank you.
Mr. Rath.
Well, I would like to see them set up a savings account for some money and save it aside, and only keep ourselves to a stricter budget, which we only spend on the projects, the old projects, get them done, and then go ahead and see whether we can't start new projects, but only pay a portion of them as sort of like you always got your savings account there in case you do get into trouble. But it would be it's just basically managing our money much better is basically it.
Mr. Moritz.
We have to quit looking at the past. We spend a lot of money. We have to look at why we spend the money. Are we getting value for the money? Economic growth, and we're going to stress that all the time. If you want to have a sustainable economy, you have to have more people. If you want to sustain the infrastructure, if you want to sustain the social services that we provide as a city, you have to have more taxpayers. You have to have more money. We can't just simply go to everybody that's here and say we want another 4.5% from you this year, another 1.5% next year for transit. There is just not enough money out there to sustain that. Obviously, there's a more positive environment out there that we're giving the world credit for. The world is turning around. Our employment rates are better, our unemployment rates are lower. Gas is coming back a little bit. Oil is going to come back. We're getting 60 bucks and 56 bucks a barrel yesterday for Brent. Times will get better. We should quit being so pessimistic.
Time. Thank you. On the same subject, but this question is directed to incumbent candidates. Have they made decisions using the city's financially fit parameters? Which levers do you feel can be utilized more effectively to balance fiscal management while maintaining vital public services? We're going to start with Mr. Turner.
Well, we have made a fair amount of progress, but we still have about a $15 million deficit that we have to overcome. And that's going to require some very tough decisions that have to be made. Unfortunately, every time that we go to talk about reducing services, people always get upset. And the comment was made that we've kind of lived high on the hog in the past with having all this extra revenue coming in from our energy division. And really, we should have taken a look at this a lot earlier. Yeah, but you can't change the past. We're in the situation we're in right now, and we have to deal with that. And that's why I think it's really important that we do have councillors that are willing to make those tough decisions. And yes, when we cut services, we get flack. When we decided to close the arena, people were upset. We decided to close the pool, people were upset. And you have to be willing to take that when you make those decisions. And we definitely have to get more efficient in how we spend our money. There's absolutely no question about that. And we have to work on that.
Mr. McIntosh.
Well, I view financially fit from a very different lens. I see it as a very positive step with all sorts of opportunities. The municipal consent and access fee that we can, that is utilized in multiple jurisdictions across the province, and we have never implemented it, is certainly something that can be utilized. User fees, slowly adjusting our user fees to ensure that people who are using our public services and getting 100% benefit for themselves, they need to be paying fair prices for that. Our departments, within our departments, they are scraping to find ways to save money. And I think they're going to be innovative, and they are going to find solutions that are going to help our community solve that financial problem. Another one is just out in our community with the amount of watering that we do. The changes there could save us significant amounts of money in the near future.
Ms. Friesen?
Financially Fit was designed to help us, given the feeling of the public and their input and feedback as well, to try to find a balanced approach to meet the financial challenge created when oil and gas dipped down to the point where they could no longer contribute to as a dividend against the tax base. So what you saw with the result of that, you saw a very, very good input rate. I'm not sure we reached all the people we should have. And so I've got to tell you, we can't have it both ways. We have to take that input and make some tough decisions while listening to the priorities of the people that we serve. I agree about user fees. I know we can't do it all at once. I know we have to do it, and I know we have to make tough decisions. We also have to remember that we're here to serve you. We're not a solid business here, paying you off a stake as shareholders. We are a public business where we are responsible for providing services that serve you best.
Mr. Dumanowski?
Financially Fit was a model that was adopted by council courageously to deal with a bottom that fell out in our commodity pricing. Although we may have predicted it, we didn't see it coming. It was a global impact. So the Financially Fit levers led us to a number of difficult and challenging decisions. Cuts by attrition. We made some cuts by not replacing positions all across the organization. 10 to 15% of our utility personnel were cut, or consultants were let go. Our service fees were reviewed. In many cases, they went up, but it was commensurate with those who could pay. So if you were a single user and you desire to use a service, you pay more. If it's a group service, there was a stable increase, and there were reductions made as well. And of course, very proud of our QP, fire, and IBEW people. They took 0%, unprecedented in this province, to help us through this Financially Fit model.
All right, thank you. So what we're going to do is we're going to open that previous topic up to debate again. 30-second answers, total of 4 minutes. And I'm going to start off with Mr. Sanford. Boy, you are fast off the gun with raising your hands.
I think, you know, we talk about financially fit, and you're right, I mean, it is based on the survey that they did. A survey that is not statistically representative of the city. But you're right, I mean, you know, you do ask people what they want. But I mean, for me, that's leading from the back. I mean, if we wanted to make decisions in city council, then we could do a survey for every issue that came up. You know, on financially fit, they've done that. On the senior center, they did a survey for the same thing, except they didn't listen to the #1 option given there. On curbside recycling, they asked people what they wanted on this, except these questions were really misleading, and some of its own conclusions undercut its own findings. So, you know, surveys are great, but it's not the way to do it.
Mr. Turnbull.
Raising taxes and fees is not the first thing that any government should do. It should be the absolute last. And I have to take exception with my good friend at the end of the table. Didn't see it coming. The city produces financial reports every quarter. They know how much money we're burning through on the utilities. They know how much money we burn through the stabilization fund. To say you didn't see it coming I'm just sorry, I just don't accept that. If you're reading those reports.
Time.
Sorry.
Ms. Smithers.
Mr. Turner mentioned that when you make the decision to cut public services, people are going to get upset. Yeah, I can tell you, I was sure upset when overnight the transit system was slashed and burned with no notice to our citizens. And they did it on the basis of a survey by 2,900 people, responded to by 2,900 people. The unfortunate thing about that survey was there was no answer in it that said, not applicable. And when I had a conversation about
Time. Sorry. Mr. Turner?
So one of the things that we haven't talked about much is Medicine Hat's in the center of this area around the southeast here, and you know, we provide a lot of services that the county doesn't have to provide, and yet all of those people living there come in and use our services. And I think that they have offered a little bit of money to us on the capital projects, but I think it would be a real good negotiating tool on the part of council to say, you know, you guys need to start ponying up a little more money to help us cover operations that your citizens are using.
Mr. Moritz?
We still have to focus on spending less money and economic growth. We can cut this however we want. We can charge the people that come into town more money, whatever we want to do. We need to grow the city. We need to grow the population. We need to grow the amount of taxpayers. There are not enough people here to cover that $29 million deficit that they had last year. We talk about $23 million as the energy rebate, or the energy amount of money we get from energy. But it's more money than that.
Time. Mr. Dumanowski.
Just to go back to the change in the commodity pricing, I think it's easy for council to be a target of a bottom that fell out worldwide. Every level of government, every nation felt the cuts. And although we didn't see those coming, we started to see a trend, and we made cuts to our dividend, and we put a ceiling on that many years ago. And we started to create an ideology about reduction on that dividend, and I'm proud of them.
Thanks. Okay, so I've seen it. Everybody that had their hand up for the first go round, I've recognized you. I didn't miss anybody. Okay, who wants a second kick at this? Anybody? Ms. Friesen.
I'd just like to say that we have benefited in this city from 100 years of dividends from our gas and oil. So I could sit here and argue both sides of this coin, mind you, but we benefited from 100 years. Now we've got a downturn that, as Councillor Dumanowski says, is worldwide, and we have to deal with it, and we will deal with it. It's easy to criticize. We can't have it both ways. I say again, either we listen, it's not good enough, we don't listen, then we didn't listen and we're criticized. So,
sorry.
Thank you, sorry.
Anybody, one last kick, Mr. Moritz.
You're right, we can't blame the council for this. The worldwide market is poor. The price for gas is marginally better, the price for oil is marginally better. Did they see it coming? Armchair quarterback, we all saw it coming. But to actually sit in the chair and say, there's going to be a problem here, we have to do our fiscal responsibility now, is too late. We should do it every day. We should look every day at the amount of money that we're going to spend. We can't say, times are going to be bad, we'll quit spending. We have to spend correct.
Thanks.
Jeez, Ken? Yes. You can't cut me off every time.
You remember that one time? Yeah. Okay. So the next question, our next question is related to off-site levies. Now this is a yes or no question, but you're given 60 seconds to answer it. But at the end of the, okay, so at the end of the day, yeah, after you make all your points, yes or no, okay? Everybody understands that? That's the direction I've been given. Through the advocacy efforts of the Chamber of Commerce, Council instituted a municipal assist with regards to off-site levies. The most recent off-site levy bylaw came into effect on September 1st, 2017. The rates approved will be in effect through to December 31st, 2018, with 40% assist through 2017, 30% in 2018, and 90% assist for brownfield through the end of 2018. If elected to council, would you be in favor of maintaining the municipal assist program? We're going to start off with Ms. Friesen.
I'm in favor of the municipal assist program, and I have been all along. I believe that in the present downturn of the economy, it's something that we need to do. I believe we only use it if there is development, which is exactly what our goal is. And I believe that it is one of the things we can do to help a little bit in stimulating the economy while still encouraging the kind of growth we want. So yes, I support it.
Mr. Turnbull.
Thank you. We have 2 new hotels coming. They were announced, and they were saved $800,000 because of the reduced off-site levies. Now, I can tell you as a business person, those people made a business case not based on off-site levies. They made their business case on whether they could fill their hotels and how they could best make a profit. So I am in favor for local construction of homes for off-site levies, but I think it needs to be phased out. Most communities in Alberta have full off-site levies.
Mr. Moritz.
Again, off-site levies are not paid by the developer. Off-site levies are paid by the consumer, and that's you. Regardless of what everybody says around the table, businesses don't pay. They're flow-through. They take your money and they pay their bills. In this case, the bill is an off-site levy. They don't pay that. You pay that. The problem with off-site levies is it also applies to downtown. If you want to build anything downtown, let's say a 24-suite apartment, you would have to pay that off-site levy on those 24 subdivisions. And that's why we're not getting business downtown. You can't afford the off-site levy. Off-site levies, again, should be phased out. Whether the city encourages and pays a little bit or not, it's not fiscally responsible. It doesn't create any economic growth. It moves those costs, especially in subdivision, to the people that buy the lots. And they don't need to pay for everybody else.
Mr. Rath.
Off-site levies I would do away with because they don't do anybody any good at all. You take like, it's just an extra cost to the landowner and everything else like that, so I would get rid of them as quickly as I could.
Mr. Dumanowski.
There is probably no other municipality in this province that has a municipal assist like we do. Having said that, we've had lots of conversations with the executive director and the advocacy group of the chamber, and they have been very convincing in helping us make a decision in some form of a reduction. I do support that. I think it's been healthy. If anything, it creates an attitude in our community, which we talked about earlier. It creates a business-friendly attitude, which leads to economic prosperity. And even though that assist comes from the taxpayer, it has to come from somewhere. It builds on itself because an increased tax base ultimately leads to a stable tax base, which means we don't have to pass it on to you. Taxes are a necessary evil, if you will, but we can mitigate that by supporting the business community, creating a stronger climate, and creating a stronger and bigger tax base, which mitigates that in the end.
Mr. Turner.
Well, I'm definitely in favor of continuing this program on, and my main reason is Medicine Hat is not an island here. We have to compete with Cypress County and the town of Redcliffe. And the town of Redcliffe just put an off-site levy bylaw in. And I know for a fact right there's one major developer said he's not going to do a development there now because of that. And the taxes even are lower in the county. So we have a definite competitive disadvantage by not having this off-site levy bylaw. And I think I would, and I guess it's a one-time fee to the taxpayer, but when it encourages new development, we are collecting taxes on that piece of property for as long as it sits there. Mr. Turnbull talked about the 2 new hotels. Yeah, it's going to be $800,000. But there's also going to be $750,000 a year in taxes from that $50 million worth of development. It is more than just 2 hotels. There's other things in that area as well. So those $800,000 is going to produce that much taxes per year.
Ms. Smithers.
I apologize, I'm not well versed in this subject, so I won't speak on it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rayner.
I think it's necessary at this time. It's an unfortunate evil, as another person put. What we could do at the start is if we can increase population and we can increase obviously job diversity and industry inside of Medicine Hat. It would be a surge, but then eventually I would be in favor of getting rid of it and only using it as a crutch to essentially stimulate the economy.
Mr. Samraj?
I don't know. Look, I mean, this is all new to me, and one of the things I've noticed as I've gone around and talking to people is that you're expected to have a position on so many things, and the city is such a massive operation, you know, I just don't know. So how I approach these things is, you know, I talk to a lot of people, I get their different perspectives, I research and I do my homework as much as I can, and I take my time and study an issue. Right now, I don't know.
Okay. Mr. McIntosh?
Well, this was one of the biggest issues that I had to learn about during the last election. We've heard comments made tonight about perhaps waiving taxes or giving away free land to businesses. I see the municipal assist as a great way to help stimulate development. It is a small investment for what can be a huge payback for the city, as Mr. Turner just indicated. And without question, I've supported it all the way along for the last 4 years.
Okay. And now we're going to have a follow-up question. There is the possibility of changing the offsite levy bylaw to incorporate reduction in fees in levies through infrastructure projects such as roads rather than through a municipal assist. Would you be willing to, if elected, to reopen the bylaw for review? Why or why not? We'll start off with Ms. Smithers.
Again, I apologize, I won't respond to that question.
Okay. Mr. Samraj?
I think my same answer.
Okay. Mr. Turner?
Yes, I certainly would be open to look at it for review because I think it's important that this is an issue that we should be taking another look at. When you look at roads, roads are used by everybody. If you start looking at other infrastructure like water lines and sewer lines, that's basically used just for that particular development. And a lot of people don't understand. I know I had a conversation with somebody about one of the big developments, and they're saying, boy, those people are just really taking the city for a ride because the city's putting in lights and they're putting in road and all that type of thing. And you have to realize that the developer does all that stuff inside of the development, and then we ask the developer to also pay for the roads coming to their development and the water lines coming to their development. And that's what off-site levies are. It's a levy to pay for the off-site services coming to your private development. And I think it's important to have another look at that to make sure we're encouraging further development down the road.
Ms. Friesen?
I would agree. I think you have to reopen bylaws and policies from time to time just as a matter of good, solid business practice. And so I would agree that it needs review and that we need to look at all the various alternatives. It flows along with good economic sense and creating the best possible environment in the community. So yes, I would support it.
Mr. McIntosh?
Well, I would say that our development community over the last few years has been one of our key economic drivers in our community, which needs to be recognized. If there are more creative ways that the city can help support pushing development forward, I think we have to look at all those opportunities.
Mr. Rath?
I'm not really going to speak on that question. I'm just not really well versed in that.
Mr. Dumanowski?
Well, reduction in specific areas makes a lot of sense. Roads are used by everyone. I think no one would dispute that. So that levy should be variable based on that. We want to promote infill development, then we need to perhaps create an incentive to do so. Urban sprawl comes with a price. You can't expand your city boundaries and utilities and your bridges and your pathways and your road systems and light intersections without significant costs. So let's do that on a business case. Those people who necessitate us to move outward pay a higher fee. Those who want to do infill pay a less fee. Downtown should be the greatest incentive of them all so that we create a robust core to our community. And again, roads everybody uses, so that would be one that would be perhaps removed altogether.
Mr. Moritz?
We're still going to talk about offsite levies, and it's still not a financial good thing for anybody. The roads, we can look at everything. When there's a new council, I think we should look at more than just offsite levies. I think you have to look at everything you do to make sure that you're doing the right thing, that you've planned for the right thing, and when we're done, we have a picture of what it should look like. Roadways, well, you're right, everybody uses the roadways. That connection between the sewer and the sewer plant, we can maybe make a business case to say that, yeah, maybe they should pay for that, but it's not the developer that pays. It's again the landowner that pays that offsite levy. If you want to build something on the flats, you want to buy a house, you want to tear it down, and you want to build a duplex, infill, higher density. It's a good thing, but you have to pay an offsite levy. That's not a good business case, because he's not going to do that if he has to pay $20,000 for an offsite levy to build a duplex. There's no money in this.
Mr. Turnbull.
We as citizens have paid taxes for years and years and years to develop our parks, our recreation, our hockey rinks, our police department buildings, our fire stations. When new developments come to town, they have to be able to, we have to be able to say to them, you need to pay your fair share for all the buildings and the recreation and infrastructure that we have put in, and you and I as taxpayers have paid over the years. I find it ironic that in one breath they will say, oh, we need to subsidize off-site levies, and in the next breath they will say now we should open it up and put on roads. Yes, I would open it up. I think that's a fair deal. Again, I have to disagree with my friend Emmanuel. Off-site levies is an important way for taxpayers to keep our taxes lower, because we have put up the money first, and new areas of development must contribute. Thank you.
Finally, Mr. Rayner.
I won't pretend to be a genius on this subject. I'm not going to tell you how we should spend your money. What I am going to say is, whenever there's an opportunity, we should always take that opportunity to ask what the public thinks about this situation. The municipality relies on the public, because the public is what supports the municipality, and the municipality is supposed to work together with the public. So I would open this, and I would ask the public on what they think.
Okay, thanks. Did I miss anybody? Okay. Now we're going to move to submitted questions that came in by email to the Medicine Hat Chamber. By my count, there were about 30 to 35 questions that were submitted. Okay, so this is a submitted question. First question, do candidates intend to protect the Medicine Hat advantage by maintaining the city ownership of our utilities? We're going to start off with Mr. Rayner.
I think it's necessary. I think one of the reasons that my family moved to Medicine Hat a long time ago and started a business here was due to the Medicine Hat advantage. It gave us a unique place in Alberta on the map. It gave us an opportunity. It gave us an advantage for doing businesses. It gave people a pride for Medicine Hat, and it helped us develop a future and develop where we are at. So I would strongly try and do my damnedest to make sure that we kept the Medicine Hat advantage.
Mr. Moritz?
There was an opportunity 10 years ago to maybe sell the entire energy division for, say, $1 billion. I can't remember the exact number. If we'd have sold it then and kept that money, we wouldn't be sitting here today talking about fiscal responsibility, not having enough money to pay for the services that we want. Could have invested that money, could have made, say even if we only made $50 million, that certainly covers our $23 million dividend that we don't get from the energy division now. That being said, there's not a chance we're going to get that kind of money.
Ms. Smithers?
Yes, I would protect the city's ownership of utilities. It has, in the past up to now, certainly provided that dividend and given the citizens of Medicine Hat the opportunity to enjoy lower costs. However, one thing I will investigate on council is why at this time we actually do not pay a reduced utility rate. As citizens, we pay an average of Fortis, EPCOR, NMAX. So those are questions I would need to determine the answer to with respect to the utilities, but I think it's certainly an advantage to retain ownership.
Okay. Mr. Turnbull?
Well, I will going to give a compliment here to those who are sitting on present council. The change of management at our utilities was excellent, because one of the reasons we ran into trouble is because we had very poor management, poor decision making, and we can go back as far as the purchase of many berries, which you all know lost us over $50 million and is a disaster. We can't sell it even if we wanted to. It's not profitable. We lost $30 million last year. So the utilities, nobody's going to buy a utility that loses that kind of money and wait around for natural gas to come back. In fact, natural gas today on spot market was 71 cents. For the balance of the month, $1.31. Even looking forward, in all the research I do, gas will never get past $2.25 by 2022. So you're right, utilities is in trouble, and we own it, and we're going to have to do the best we can to fix it and get it profitable as quickly as possible.
Mr. Turner?
So when you drive around the province and you see these massive power lines that are built, and guess who pays for those? All of the people not in Medicine Hat. The citizens of Medicine Hat do not have to pay for those transmission charges because we own our own distribution network. And this is a big financial advantage for us. We've actually had industries contact us because they want to locate here and they want to make sure that they are in the area of the city that we can supply them with electricity. I know people in the county that has their transmission charges are higher than my total electric bill. And those transmission charges are slated to go up another 50 to 60%. And we will be continually sheltered from that. And that is a huge advantage for our city. And we need to really promote that fact to attract those businesses here. And I think that's something we need to do in the future.
Mr. McIntosh?
Well, I'll start by saying I feel the Medicine Hat advantage still is alive and well. Our oil and gas and our electrical division have taken significantly new directions over the last few years, as was mentioned, by bringing in some excellent talent from other parts of the province. The electrical production and distribution have recently signed a power wheeling agreement so that we can start selling some of our power outside of the province to benefit from pricing outside of Alberta. First time that we've done that. You've heard about the helium. The helium is going to be, I'm cautiously optimistic about something that could be very exciting for our city and our region. As a community, we need to get behind these initiatives. It is a different direction that we've seen in the past, but it's going to be very positive moving forward.
Mr. Rath?
I like to keep our utilities under our ownership because it gives us a great advantage, and I think that would be something that you can advertise to entice companies to come here, is a little bit better rate and of our own utilities and etc. like that. Plus also I would like to see them work on doing environmental utilities like more windmills and the solar panels. That I think is the direction that we all should be going, is into the renewable energy part of it.
Okay. Mr. Dumanowski?
I will always be an advocate of keeping our utilities publicly owned and strong. We must be prepared to stay nimble and dynamic when it comes to our utilities. As has been mentioned, our new growth strategy with our business group in the NGPR, the Natural Gas Petroleum Resources Department, have done an incredible job identifying some new opportunities. And that's not because of an election. It's because these are meaningful opportunities coming around the corner. Helium is one that we're optimistic about. We happen to be in a region that has helium. It's identifying it as a resource and our ability to extract it and process it. If we can do that, we will be identifying a new source of income in the near future. But I'm very proud of our staff and the work they've done in NGPR, and the growth strategy should turn us around very, very soon.
Ms. Friesen?
I agree. I am a strong advocate of the Medicine Hat advantage and of public ownership of our resources, and I'm not going to change my mind on that. As I said earlier, we have enjoyed a tremendous advantage over the last 100 years, and I believe that the diversification of our portfolio and a very strong growth strategy that includes a number of different things, alternative, renewable, helium, and other opportunities that we will be finding, will turn that around. Remember that we have a very strong strategic directions established in energy and with electric going into a capacity market. We enjoy a financial advantage on the distribution side and with transmission charges, as has been said. And we also enjoy a small dividend from land and our other public utilities. It is not all doom and gloom here. It's a downturn, we're dealing with it, and we'll come out of this stronger together.
Mr. Samraj.
Yes, of course, we should keep our utilities publicly owned. But the intent was never to make money. I mean, the intent was to provide cheap utilities for the residents, and it has done that. So I think we should do that. But to the Medicine Hat advantage, for the past 2 decades, Medicine Hat has had the lowest property taxes and the lowest utilities. That hardly has led to any sort of economic boom here. If you compare us to the Red Deer or Grand Prairie, I mean, those places have boomed. Our growth has been pretty anemic. So, I mean, absolutely we need to keep our taxes competitive and our utilities low. But, I mean, there are more things going on here than simply those things. If we're going to have a true Medicine Hat advantage, I think we're going to have to look at the bigger picture here.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that's the time for question period. We're now going to move in, and I got to tell you, anybody who watches the legislature question period, these guys have done a way better job of answering the questions than the folks in Ottawa or in Edmonton. So give them a hand, please. Okay, so now we're going to move on to give the candidates one final opportunity to address the audience with their closing statement. Each candidate will now get 2 minutes to speak. We're going to start with Mr. Turner.
Well, thank you. It's been a real pleasure being here tonight, and my campaign slogan is "The future is bright for Medicine Hat," and that's not just a slogan. I truly believe that. I think we have tremendous opportunity going forward economically, both in renewable energy and in also some of the value-added products, say plant protein, for an example, where there's just worldwide research being done on that right now. And we're really just exporting raw crops away from our area. We could be developing that. 40% of the hemp is grown south of the number 3 highway. 40% of the stuff is grown in all of North America here, and we process 0 of it. It's shipped to Manitoba to be processed. And I really think there's an opportunity there. There's also an opportunity in the helium, as was mentioned before. I see we've got Atlantis research coming in here with building the jet engines. There's just a lot of things happening in the background, and I really feel that we have great opportunities here, and I think it's time Medicine Hat move forward. And I ask for your support on October the 16th. Thank you.
Mr. Turnbull.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming here tonight and paying attention to what I think is the most important 4 years ahead of us. Accountability, tenacity, work ethic, integrity. Some people think these are buzzwords, but these are the qualities that have been the cornerstone of my life's work. I was the general manager of a company that owned and operated 3 Canadian Tire stores, a couple of gas bars, and we did commercial development. And these are the qualities that I want to bring to City Hall. I want to bring my business experience, because when we were in business, and it was very successful business, we paid attention to every detail. And that's what we have to do at the city. There's no small thing that we should not be able to stand and ask the questions. And so it brings me to the question of decision-making at our city council. The transit, I took it for 7 days. I know that Chris did the same. Was horrendous for people. I don't know how they managed yesterday during that storm. Oil man barriers, I mentioned that before. The solar project. We went $4.1 million over budget, and we have people saying, but it was a great experiment. $7.1 million was our total cost for it, by the way. The wind power. Everybody thinks we own those windmills. We do not. We simply buy all the power those windmills produce. The guy who owns them is running back to the bank and spends most of his time in Florida. So here's what I promise you. I will commit to be communicative. I'm going to hold 4 town hall meetings a year where you can bring your concerns to me, and I will listen, because I want to be your voice. And when I was walking around and knocking on doors today and for the last 3 weeks, 2 questions. Why can't you communicate with us? And why does the city spend so much money? We're going to get the city under control. Back on track.
Thank you. Ms. Smithers.
I believe we need diverse perspectives, engaged conversation, and creative ideas. We need to take all of the plans and studies and consultations off the shelf and start taking action. We need to listen to the people of Medicine Hat and make the decisions that serve all of our people to the best of our ability. We need to take advantage of the fact that we are the opportunity corner. We need to lead with optimism, dream big, and actually live our slogan with a sunshine state of mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Samraj.
As I've been talking to people, the question I get most is, am I conservative or liberal? I understand why people ask that question. I mean, you want to be represented by somebody who shares your values. But I mean, in some sense, the question misses the point. You know, I would bet that a majority of the councillors on this city council would say that they're fiscal conservatives. But like I said, in the past 5 years, the city's debt has increased by $100 million. Simply declaring your political values doesn't mean that you can deliver on those promises. I mean, you want low taxes, you want city's bureaucracy to work as efficiently as possible. You really need to understand the city processes. Now, I've been attending city council meetings for 3 years because I want to learn as much as possible, because I know that making promises is easy, delivering on them is hard. Now, I'm not going to promise you the moon here. We are facing an unprecedented situation. I mean, for the first time in generations, our gas dividend is gone. So, I mean, our golden goose has died. So perhaps it's time to try new things.
Mr. Rayner.
Lots of people said we're being pessimistic, you know, doomsday is upon us. I say we're being realistic. If we don't look at the problems that are coming, we'll never be able to solve them. Right now in August, the unemployment rate came out, 8% across the board right now. It went up. We are having a problem, and the world is having a problem. $87 trillion in debt, the entire world. We can't afford the future we're going at this point. We need change. We need a community. We need people, and we need to work together. We need to make sure that our people are taken care of. We need to make sure that businesses and industry is brought up from within the community. Make sure that people have a voice, a platform. Too long has the government ruled and not worked with the people. We need people that are representative. We need people that share the values of the people, understand what it's like to go to work every day, understand what it's like to work 2 jobs, understand what the fiscal responsibility of every household, and understand that it is hard, and it is a tough situation, but tough situations make tough people, and we can come out of this on top. And I believe in our community, and I want to give us a reason to believe in our community. Together. Thank you.
Mr. Rath.
I would like to talk on about Medicine Hat is a darn good place to live and everything, but the council has been spending a little bit too much money for my liking, and also there are all kinds of opportunities there to save some money by heating the city hall and the courthouses and the library and the police station with that hot water from the powerhouse. Why do we have to run it through a radiator and then dump it back into the river? These are all kinds of things, money-saving things, because I believe that you probably will save at least $1 million in natural gas costs by doing that. And then you can take that $1 million and put it towards something else. But I also believe that we should have all of our city services there, and anybody in the city hall, especially like us aldermen, we should be very approachable. And if you have a problem, you come and we can sit down and discuss it. So on October 16th, I hope you will give me a vote, and thank you very much.
Mr. Moritz.
For a moment, we'll quit talking about economic growth. We're going to talk about you. What we need to do is listen to you. We have to put you first, not the city, not the energy division. You are the most important person in this equation. We have to think about bringing positive change. The city is we have a financial problem right now, but you have to be optimistic. You gotta love this city. It's a great place to raise our kids. There is strength in all of you. We can look forward to a better future if we all work together as a team. Once we're on council, that's what it is. It's a team. It's not a bunch of individuals up here pulling it in a different direction. We all have to get on the same page, whether it's business, whether it's people that use transit. Transit is a bugaboo. I mean, it's a problem that we can't solve here today. We're going back to the old system. We can look at it again when we're on council, but it's a problem we can't solve in the next 2 weeks. Again, the council has to do things more in open. What happens at the council now is everything is done, not everything, most things are done in closed, or it's done in committee. It's not done in front of you. There is no discussion. If I have a disagreement with Mr. Turnbull or Jamie here, and we do that in closed, you will not hear two opinions. You need to vote for people that have a different opinion. You need to have new voices, you need to have new ideas, we need to focus on that positive change that can come here. We are a great place. Sitting here and saying, what are we going to do? We have to ask you what we're going to do. What are your good ideas? I'm quite willing for you to lend me a good idea, I'm quite willing to run with it, but I need to listen to your voices. I need to have you tell me what you think is wrong. We need to listen to our employees. They know where the bus should go or where it shouldn't go, or how long it's between the buses. Not 35 minutes, but 30 minutes. Those are all things that could have come with
time.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, we used to hand off each other's sentences when we were in school as well.
He was better at it than I was.
Yeah, I was. Mr. McIntosh.
Thank you. When I started this campaign a few weeks ago, I went down into my file cabinet and grabbed my folder from 4 years ago, and I pulled out a picture and a news article from the very first day I announced. And in that article, reading it, it identified that one of the things I wanted to see on the next council was teamwork. And that's exactly what we had, teamwork. And after the election last time, we had a strategic planning session. We didn't go to Banff or Calgary to a fancy hotel. We locked ourselves into the hockey hounds for 2 days and shared the vision that each one of us had for our community. And out of that came 6 very important strategic priorities that we followed for the last 4 years. And tonight, I say that consistency on a lot of those priorities needs to be maintained. We are growing, and you can see that by driving around town. Our economic development plan is in place, making a difference, and it's going to continue to make a difference. Our city is on the map from a tourism perspective. We are seen as a place to come and visit. We as a community, as City Council, need to help drive more opportunities for those people that are coming to our city to experience everything that we have to offer. I am a solid decision maker, I'm consistent, and I'm a listener. Now, once the evening's done and tomorrow evening's done, this transitions from us and our signs around town, and it transitions to you. And you need to figure out who it is out of the candidates running that you most align with. It may not be me, and that's great. And you find those people, you vote for them, and hopefully you can come up with a great city council that can lead this city for the next 4 years. Thanks.
Ms. Friesen?
My main priority has always been and will always be a focus on people, and I will never make an apology for that. I absolutely love Medicine Hat. Your quality of life is very important to me as I serve you. I know we need to strive for a higher economic vibrancy and really create an entrepreneurial spirit in our city. You have a right to expect a safe community, and we have stellar police and fire services. Very proud of that. I'm very proud that we have made a commitment to our infrastructure in the ground and put aside in the budget money to keep it healthy, where many municipalities are not able to do that. I believe in innovation and diversification. I believe that we have to engage our community and our public in a better way and listen to them, find a better way to listen to them in a meaningful way. And I really want to pursue youth leadership. Youth have so much to offer. When I say youth, I mean up to 40. We're not taking advantage of those wonderful ideas. I am committed to fiscal responsibility. I know we can no longer be dependent on a dividend from our energy, and I know we can come out of it as well. It's imperative to me we are poised for success amidst the growing environment of innovation and technology in industry. I know we need fresh new ideas. You also need experience and continuity on your council. I offer you common sense and integrity. I am a leader and a decision maker, and as you've noticed recently, I'm not afraid to take on a challenge, and I've demonstrated the courage to do that and say we're sorry for some things that have happened. I hope to have earned your trust over the last 4 years, and I really want to work on a council team committed to continue growing our wonderful city together with you, the people we serve.
Mr. Dumanowski.
It has been truly a privilege to serve this community. I'm humbled by the support that I've had in the past. I am a grassroots mindset. I have a grassroots mindset and approach that I believe the people of Medicine Hat enjoy as well. I believe that there are many possibilities and lots of optimism for the future in this community. I want to work hard to preserve our property and utility advantages. I want to diversify our recreational and cultural opportunities. Let's work hard and even harder to create a more robust business environment. Let's ensure that we have emergency services that are second to none so that people can know and count on being protected at their worst hour. Let's promote an inclusive environment that preserves what we hold close to our hearts. I got into public service because of the old adage to give back to your community. I said earlier, I'm a child of immigrant parents who came to this country, and I had the opportunity to learn so much from them. And I take that into my day as a school administrator, and I take that into my role as a city councilor. I hope that my integrity, my honesty, and my hard work and experience is worthy of your vote on October 16th. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was just a stellar evening. Please show your appreciation. Before I let you go, okay, so this concludes the first of the election forums. There will be 2 more forums tomorrow night. Will be the rest of the candidates for council, and Thursday night it will be the mayoral candidates. Because of time constraints, we haven't been able to get to all of your questions, but the Chamber will be forwarding scrutinized questions to our candidates, and the Chamber will publish any answers that are received from candidates on the Chamber Municipal election page at www.medicinehatchamber.com. Before you go, I'd like to bring up Perry Deering, President of the Chamber of Commerce, to say a few words.
Well, thank you, and I guess that there was no doubt that Mr. Ken Coley was going to do a tremendous job, so round of applause for Ken. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Chambers of Commerce, I'd like to thank you for attending this evening. It is the Chamber's responsibility to help the public better understand the issues at stake in our municipal election and where our candidates stand on related business issues. And we hope that tonight's event will help able you to inform on the issues so you can have a better chance when we're voting on the 16th. I'd like to acknowledge the staff because of the hard work that they do for organizing the event tonight, and board of directors, my team that was out and about and gathering. So again, thanks everyone for coming tonight, and have a nice evening, and we'll see you maybe tomorrow night.
When you're out there.